everybody. Happy Thursday. So we're going to have Shields Live. You just get me today. Tim is gone for the afternoon. So we are just going to be together today. And we're going to do a little bit more work with with fabric. So we've been cutting fabric with our scan and cut. And the thing that I'm going to show you today is the rotary blade, because the rotary blade allows you to cut hard to cut fabrics. You can use it for all fabric. That's absolutely fine. I have a tendency only to use it when I'm having some more difficult fabrics to cut, like felt, for instance. So we're going to cut felt today. And hello, everybody. And so we're going to cut felt today. And that's something that a lot of people want to cut. And you can cut, simple shapes. You can cut, more intricate shapes. And the rotary blade does a very fine job of both. But I will say I really love the Rotary Auto Blade, but it does take a little longer to cut. So because of the way it cuts, it takes longer. So I'll show you that as I am going along, and I'll show you how long it takes. And there's some settings that we're going to set up in our scan and cut to use the blade. So we'll be talking about a lot of those kind of things today. And we're going to cut, and we're actually going to cut flowers out of felt today. I love to make felt flowers. And I did some kind of fun things with I make cards. So I have some dies that I use so often to make cards, and I have some flower dies, but they're very tiny. The flowers turn out about as big as the end of my thumb, and I wanted them bigger, and I was able to use the scan and cut to help me out with that. So it was kind of fun. This is how you get the Rotary Auto Blade. I wanted to show this before I put the camera down. It's easier. So this is the package that the Rotary Auto Blade comes in, and it is you get the blade and the blade holder, and then there's a set of designs on a card. So I can show you what's in the box there. So you get this little card, and you can put this into Canvas Workspace and get some nice designs. And it has this really cute set of felt like stuffies, like you can make the letters. So I thought those were cool. And an instruction sheet that was in there too. And then the blade and the blade holder. You can get the blades by themselves if you need a new blade. And I think I'm getting close to needing a new blade because I've used mine quite a bit. So the rotary blades do need to replace just like the other blades do. But the only way you can get the Rotary Auto Blade is in a package like this. This works on all the SDX models. So it does not work on the older machines like the CMs, the 350s, 650s, 550s. It only works on the SDX models. So all of the newer ones. Jane, Shield Sewing Center is in Iowa City, Iowa, and Davenport, Iowa. So you're watching us in Iowa today. So it's kind of warm today. It got a little warmer than I thought it was going to. So anyway, this is the Rotary Auto Blade. We'll talk a little bit more about that. What we're going to do is we're going to start by producing our designs that we want to cut. So we're going to review what we've done the last 2 weeks on Shields Live, and just go back and review how we make our designs. So we're going to make 2 different designs. And then I also learned something from one of my YouTube friends that I wanted to tell you, that I found out more about the scanning function. So I was very appreciative. So we'll talk about that as well. And then we'll do the cutting with the Rotary Auto Blade. Okay, so let me go ahead and switch my camera over and turn the banner off. How is everybody today? All right, let's see here. Got to get back to my comments and see if I can find my right buttons here. And change the microphone so you can hear me when I turn my head. All right. Okay. So we are going to review what we did the last couple weeks. What we did the first week with cutting fabric with the Scan and Cut is we talked about how to produce a pattern from a PES file. So I have a PES file that I want to make a pattern out of that we're going to cut some flowers. So a year or so ago, we made the Kimberbell bench buddies, the little pillows. So I'm going to pull this back so you can see my little pillow. So here's my little pillow. And this was the July one. We did this in July, and it had all these little felt flowers on it. And I thought, hey, we can use the rotary blade and we can cut out these flowers so we don't have to sit there. Because the way they have them in the instructions is to, like, they stitch out and then you have to take scissors and cut along all the little petals and everything. And then these rolled little roses like this. So you have to cut them out along the stitch line. Well, I thought, well, we can do the scan and cut for that. So remember the first week we did this 2 weeks ago, we talked about making a pattern from a PES design that we already have. So I have my little machine here, and we're just going to review that. I have my little pattern for that rose. We're just going to do the rose today. I didn't want to bring, these have to be, these are straight. They're straight and they have like the little flower bumps on the top. I want to use, we're just going to do the rolled one today because this one's a little bit easier. I don't want to have to bring my sewing stuff with me to hand sew. These had to be hand sewed, but we're going to do these. So I have a little design, the little PES design for these. Okay. And I'm going to go on to, I've got it on my stick down here, and I'm going to go into the pocket. And I'm going to go to my stick, and I'm going to find my little PES design of that little flower. And it's small enough that I have this little Aurora. It's just a little 4x4 machine, and it fits in here. This is a baby lock. So this works with the brother and the baby lock machines. Okay. So I'm going to touch that little design, and I'm going to hit set. And so here's my little design. So I'm on the editing screen right now. And let me get my little poker here. So I'm going to use the little color box. And we did this 2 weeks ago. And I'm going to go and I'm looking for that special color that makes this, the scan and cut, think it's a cutting line instead of a sewing line. And I find this actually works better than using the PES function in the machine, but we'll go over that again quickly as well. Okay, so here is the little color I'm looking for. It's kind of a little, it has a little pair of scissors on it and then a straight line across the top. So that is the applique material line is what it's called. And you can see up here, it's got a line and then here's the little scissors. So the machine thinks it's a cutting file now. So I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to save this back to my stick. So this, again, this is a review from 2 weeks ago. And this is what we did. Okay, so there's my little flower. And the only design, I should preface this one only had one step. Okay, so I didn't have to tell it to go to the correct step to find my cutting line. It was the only step on this one. Okay, if you're doing a design that has maybe 3 appliques in it, you need to go to each one of your placement lines and then choose that special color that I just chose for each one. This one, I only had the one piece, so that's what I did. Okay, and I'll make sure it's saved back to my, I think I saved it, but I'll just save it again. Save back to my stick. And I will, now it's ready to be cut in my machine. Okay, so that's one of the ways that we made our designs. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to turn my machine off and I'm going to pull my stick out over here. So we're done with the machine for right now. And then I'm going to move over to the scan and cut. So let's review the second way we did this. So excuse me if I don't want to make anybody sick, but I got to move my camera arm here. I may have to move it over a little bit. With the scan and cut, I have to have kind of the right angle because you get glare on the screen. So I have to move this over a little bit further this way. All right, and we do have the Rotary Auto Blades up on our website. So if anybody does need, and it does not live near us, I do have them on our website, shieldsewingcenter.com. and you can purchase them on our website. Okay, so we're back to our scan and cut, and I'm going to put that same USB in to my machine. And this is the little flower that we're going to make right here. Okay. I'm going to retrieve the data, and I'm going to go to my stick. And right here is that PES file. So this is the second method that we talked about 2 weeks ago. Okay. I took my actual PES file, and there are two buttons here. The first one allows us to actually read the PES file. Now, again, if you have, this works for all of the dealer scan and cuts. It does not work on the mass marketed machines, the part that I'm doing right now. They do not read PES files, but all of the dealer machines do. The 225s, the 230Ds, the 325s, and the 330Ds. Those all read PES files. So if I take this button here with my PES, this is my PES file. And again, there was just the one piece to it, and I click OK. I can trace it all the line. And what I would do is I would use this line right here, this first section, or this section. So actually, this is actually reading the stitches, and this is reading the stitches as well. But this one is the one I would choose, and I would say OK. And then I would ungroup it. I don't need to because it's all in one piece, and hit set. And at this point, then I would take this, and this would become my cutting file. Okay, so that's the second way we did this. All right. I do not use this method very often because it literally cuts the stitches. So what I found is that when it cuts the stitches, sometimes I'll have a little, like if there's a tie on and a tie off, it will actually cut, it'll actually cut the little tie in and the tie off. Sometimes it's like a triangle. So I don't use this method as often. What I like to use, let's go back, is the method that we just did with the machine. I like to take my PES file. So I just took that little flower file, put it in my machine, changed it to that special color that I just did, the applique material color. I'm going to go back and I'm going to find it, and it's saved. I saved it back to my machine. After I did that, I went to it goes into, by the way, the B pocket. The machine creates that little button. And then this PHC here is the little file that it produced. And there's my design. And if I hit the second button here, okay, that's the applique button. I'm going to hit that one. And there's my design. And this one will be cleaner. So I usually use that procedure when I don't have like an SVG file or another FCM file for cutting my applique designs. Okay, so I'm just going to hit set, and that's how I'm going to do this little rose picture, or this little rose design, and then I would cut it like that. Okay, so that's our little rose. So that's one of the two ways that we produced 2 weeks ago. We talked about that type of how to make our patterns. Okay, so the second week, last week, we talked about, let's say we have a pattern piece, and we talked about this. Let me get my other pieces of paper here. I've got too many pieces of paper here. I'm going to get my scanning mat up because we're going to use this in a minute. I'm going to load that in so it won't fall off. Okay. So remember last week, we talked about the tree, and we scanned this tree, and I put it in my scanning mat, and that's how this was from a more of a traditional, like applique design. This was done by Fabrications by Doris. The gal's name is Doris. And she hand draws these designs. And then these are raw edge applique that are
permanent bond, so you don't actually sew around all these intricate little pieces. She also has some that you would sew around. So if you had a traditional machine applique pattern, you may get a piece of paper that has your parts on it that you need to applique, and then we took this and we scanned it in. Now, I want to thank somebody on YouTube that answered me a question for me. I've always struggled a little bit. So let's put this in the machine. Let's put this little picture in the machine here. Okay, here's I put it in my scanning mat. These are the ones that have the cool little flippers here. Okay, so we're gonna use that. All right. So what we did for this is we hit scan and scan to cut data because I want to cut it out of something else. But I wanted to thank Darcy. There was somebody named Darcy on YouTube that gave me some information that I was not connecting correctly in my brain. So we're going to hit start here and we're going to go ahead and scan this in real quick. And then I'm going to explain to you when we get to this little piece of paper. I used the black and white mode since my paper is in black and white. And then we're also going to make our design that we're going to use today. It's a little different thing, so I'll show you that next. But I wanted to explain a question that I had of my own, and somebody helped me on YouTube the other day. All right, so it's recognizing it. So this is what we talked about last week. So we talked about the 3 buttons here. This button, this is only in black and white mode that you have 3 buttons. When you are in color mode, you only have the first 2, okay? So the first button is an outline detection. It only detects an outline all the way around the outside edge. Many times for applique, that is all we need, okay? If you need to have stuff that's inside and outside traced, I've always used the second button. It is called the region detection button. The other one's called the outline detection button. This one's called the region. But what it's actually doing is it's doing all the inside tracing and all the outside tracing, which is the one I've always used for this, and we used it last week. I always have had a little problem with the third button because I was under the impression it was something to do with intersection. But Darcy corrected me, and I'm so glad she did because I went then to my manual. Here's the manual, okay? And it explained to me, and I went back and all the way back to the CM 550, and here's the 650 manual page, and then this is the new, my manual, which is the 230D. I went back and looked at this, and now I understand what this is. The third button is actually called line detection. And what it does is if you select that, and that is what I would select for this one now. Remember, we had quite a bit of cleanup last week. And if you choose line selection, select this option to detect the center of lines and convert them to a cutting line. So what it does is it selects and traces the center of all the lines that are on there. But this is where I had the problem. The lines need thicker than 1.5 millimeters will not be detected as lines. They will be detected as regions. So whenever I tried this, I must have had lines that were too thick. So it was thinking it was a region. So you have to have pretty thin lines. And this graphic has pretty thin lines. Okay, so this one worked really well because now when I hit preview and OK, I'm going to have much less cleanup. And I'm just going to save this in the machine real quick, and we'll go look at it real quick to see that there's much less cleanup. So that's what the third button is. It's called line detection. But be aware, you do need to have, I'm just going to go back to the beginning. I'm going to go grab that. Whoops, I have to retrieve my data. Sorry, retrieve the data from the machine. And it's the last one I did. And now when I go to look at this, before I had a lot of little cleanup to do. But now if I go in here and look at this, edit, and if I hit my selection button, there's still a little bit of cleanup. There's a few little things that are not supposed to be there. And there's a couple things down here. But for the most part, it just traced what I wanted it to trace. So what a game changer. So if you have thin enough lines on your graphic, use the third button, which is called line detection. Okay, so I wanted to review that. And now I understand better. So go look at your manual. Mine was on about page, it was in the 70s. It was in the second part of the book. And I have a 330D, so 78 is what mine was on, but that's what explained it. But I think the reason I had problems with it originally is because I was using a graphic that had too wide of lines. And so it thought it was a region instead of a line. Okay. This was done obviously with a very thin Sharpie marker because she draws by hand. So I was very, very thrilled. So thank you very much, Darcy, for explaining that to me. And it works great, but you do have to have the correct kind of graphic. Okay, so that's what we did last week. Well, we're also going to do one of those this week by scanning some little, I wanted some flowers. I have these dies that I run through my die cutting machine. And if you've never seen a steel rule die before, or not a steel rule die, but like a thinlet die, that's what these are. So these are little dies that you lay your paper down and you lay your die down on top of it, and then you put it through a die cutting, like a rolling die cutting machine, or a electric one. So not a machine like this. This is like, it's put under pressure. Okay, so these are my little dies, and I had these cute little dies, and I love them. But you know, when you make these in felt or in paper, they roll up and they're about as big as the end of my thumb. So they're very, very tiny flowers. So I thought these were so cute, and I would like them to be bigger. So I thought, well, maybe the scan and cut can help me. So what I did is I took these dies, put them in my Sizzix switch, and I ran them through and I cut them out in paper. So I used black paper, and I picked 3. I picked this one, and this one. Okay. And I cut them out in paper. So here's what they look like when they're cut out in black paper. Okay, so this is going to help us make our design. So I'm going to lay these under my little flap of my scanning mat. And here's the second one. So I cut that one out. Okay. And then I'm going to take this one also. And here's the third one that I cut out. And I cut these out of just black paper. I like the black and white. It just makes it a little easier to see. Okay. All right. I'm going to lay those down in my scanning mat. All right. So we're going to do the same kind of thing that we did with the tree. So I'm just going to hit the home button and go back. And I'm always losing my stick. Here it is. Okay. So we're going to hit scan. So this is how we're going to produce the pattern we're going to use today. So I'm going to hit scan to cut data. I'm going to use black and white mode. That's what I'm in. And I'm going to hit start. Oh, hi, Marcia. And I'm going to hit start. And it's going to scan in. So we made this little rose flower from our PES file. And we're making these 3 flowers. 1, oh, here we go, 2, and 3. These we're going to make out of these little scans that I cut, or these little die cuts that I cut out of paper. Okay, so here are my 3 little die cuts. And it scanned them nicely. Now these are all in one piece. As you can see, they're all connected. The whole thing is all connected all together. All right. So I'm going to actually choose the first option, which is just going to do an outline because the whole thing is connected all the way around. So I'm just going to click this button instead on these. And you can see that it did a pretty good job of tracing those. And I'm going to crop these up a little bit. This one here looks a little wonky, but I think it's okay. We'll see. We'll see what it looks like when we get in there. And then I'm going to hit preview. And then I'm going to hit OK. I think they're okay. And then we'll look at it a little closer. And then I'm going to save those back to my stick. Okay, so I cut those out with my dies in paper, and I'm now scanning them into the scan and cut so I can have a digital file. All right, so let's see what we got here. So I'm going to go back and let's open those up that I just did. So I'm going to retrieve my data from my stick. And let's see here. Here they are right here. Okay, they're right here. Okay. Now this one didn't cut very well. This one didn't scan very well. Okay. And I don't know why. So let's go back and let's try scanning it one more time. So let's hit scan again. I'm going to move it. Sometimes this one, that's rather detailed, didn't trace very well. So I'm going to just move it over. Sometimes if you move them around, it's a light thing with your scan and cut. So let's just try it again. I have a hard time sometimes seeing on the screen. So sometimes I have to scan it a couple times. So let's see what it does. So we'll try it one more time. So we're just doing the same thing. We're going to scan it. See if it looks better. Because I told you it looked a little strange. Let's see. All right. So again, I'm going to use the first button, which is the tracing around the outside edge. And I think now it looks okay. It probably was just over here. It might have just been a light thing. Sometimes with the scanner, if you have a little trouble scanning, you may need to turn on a light in your room or turn off a light in your room. Sometimes it's just where the light is for you, and I often have to do that. So sometimes it's too dark, sometimes it's too bright. So if that helps you. All right, so there's our 3. That looks better. So let's hit preview. And then I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to save it to my stick again. All right, so now let's try it. Let's see if that worked better. So we're going to hit our house. So we're just producing our pattern. So we're going to retrieve the data, and I'm going to hit the little stick because that's where they are. Oh yeah, that turned out, I think, much better. So let's bring that one up. Oh yeah, so I think we're good now. I think that one looks, oops, that might not be the right one. Make sure I get, maybe this one. Oh yeah, that's way better. So let's say, okay, that was the one we just did. And I am going to edit that one that I thought might look just a little weird. So I'm going to hit edit, and I'm going to blow this up a little bit so I can look at it. And I think it's okay though. Looks pretty good. So I think it is okay. All right. So my idea with these was to make these bigger so that I could get a nice sized flower. So like I said, the little flowers are about as big around as the end of my thumb when I roll them up. And these, see, are a nice size. They're, what are they, about an inch in diameter or so? So these are the 3 flowers. And so what I did is I know that I need to have these in my cut file be about 4 inches in diameter. Okay? So I'm just going to select each one, and I'm going to object edit. I'm going to hit the size button here, and I'm going to bring this up so that it's approximately 4 inches. The largest number is about 4 inches because I knew that would be about right. So here's one of them, and I've made it into that larger size. I'm going to hit OK, and then I'm going to go click on a second one, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to resize it. So now, instead of all of my flowers having to be this size, I can make them any size I want. I can make them bigger. I can make them smaller. Okay. So this one, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do the height at about 4 inches. So they're going to be roughly 4 inches square. They're a little bit different one way than the other, but very close. Okay. So there's another one. Okay. And then let's do the third one. I'm going to hit OK. And then I'm going to change the size of that one. So I'm changing them all, the height about 4 inches roughly. And now I have unlimited amounts of flowers I can have in different sizes. So I can even make them bigger if I wanted to. Okay. So now that's what's neat about having a digital file. Then I can change the size. When I cannot do that with my little dies. The dies are fun. I love to cut dies, but these I can't change the size. I have to have a die for each size that I want. Here I can use the one die and I can make a design out of it that I can change the size to any size I want. Okay. So we have the pattern then for this one. So I'm going to hit OK. I've got them all bigger to the size I want them. And I'm going to click OK again. And then I'm going to click OK again. This time I'm going to save this again back to my stick. And I'm going to tell it to overwrite because I want them that size. So I'm going to hit overwrite and OK. All right, so now these are all the size we want them. Okay, so we have produced our patterns for our rotary blade today. So now we're going to talk about the actual rotary blade. Okay, so the rotary blade, this is the rotary blade. Okay, and it literally has, I'm going to take the cap off, it literally has a little rotary cutter on the bottom. Look how tiny that is. Just has a little rotary cutter on the bottom. Okay. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to replace the regular auto blade with that one in my machine. And it goes in just like all the other ones do. And you can also replace the blade in it just like all the other ones. You just unscrew the bottom here like this. And you can buy the blades, and then this is the blade. Okay, it comes out. And I think I'm just about ready to need a new blade. All right, so I got that. Put that back in there. All right, so now we need to talk just a little bit about the rotary blade. So in the box, like I said, here's our box. Okay. The Rotary Auto Blade comes with the blade and the blade holder. It comes with some instructions. Okay, and then it also has some designs. So you can go to Canvas Workspace and you can activate your designs. All right, so those are the designs that come with it. But this piece of paper is the little, there's a little instruction booklet. And I found this on the Brother website. So if you go to Google, this is the easiest way to find. Brother website is very difficult to find things on. So I go to Google and I search for SDX 325 or whatever machine you have, SDX, I have a 230D in manuals. That's what I type in Google, and then it comes right up. And this is one of the things that's there with all the manuals for the Rotary Auto Blade kit. All right. You know, God forbid they put the instruction manual in the box, but they don't. And there are a couple of things that you need to know about the Rotary Auto Blade. Again, it is compatible with the DX models. So the 225, the 230D, the 325, and the 330D. And then there's some from the mass marketed ones that are the SDX models. So those will also work with this rotary blade. The CM models, which are the older ones before the auto blade, will not work. Okay. So that's one of the things. The rotary auto blade is suitable for cutting materials up to 1 millimeter thick. All right, so they do need to have, you are limited to 1 millimeter. All right. Then make sure that you have updated the software on your Scan and Cut before you try to use your rotary auto blade. So to do that, I'm just going to go back. We already saved that, so I'll just hit OK. You need to go in, and mine is on the internet. I've got mine hooked up to the internet. What's nice about this is if you're hooked up to the internet, it will tell you right here with a little exclamation point that you have an upgrade. To get it to upgrade, you go to your settings, the little wrench, and then you're going to go down towards the bottom, and it's going to be under, let's see, always have to find it, under version, right here where it says version. I'm going to click that, and then the version, you can either use the old-fashioned USB stick upgrade, or I usually use the wireless one. So if I click this, it'll think about it for a minute and says no updates available. So 1.7 is the most current version. So make sure you have your machine updated before you try to use your rotary auto blade. Okay, so that's one of the things. Then we have a couple more things. And then, of course, you go to canvasworkspace.brother.com, log into your account, and then you can activate your design kit here. That's one of the things that was in this little instruction sheet. But most importantly, there are a couple of settings we need to know about in the settings for this blade. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my wrench on my main screen here. And one of the things that you need to change is there's a blade adjustment area in pattern in here. So I'm going to go and we need the pattern interval. Adjust the blade at the top portion. So we want that on. So where is, second here, we have to make sure I find all the, go back here. So the first one that's on the screen here anyway, this is on the first page. One of the things you need to change is set the pattern and interval. Pattern interval right here. It comes from the factory, I believe, set at 1, I believe. This or 2, one or the other. But set the pattern interval to 5 is what it says to do to use your rotary auto blade. So I have mine set at 5 right here. Okay. Let's see, the next page has one more page yet. Okay, here we go. Blade adjustment area. Okay. I think it's on the next page. So I have to go back one. Cut mode rotary blade. Okay, so this is where things can change. So like I said, this blade does take a little longer to cut. And there are 2 modes with cut mode rotary blade. There is the normal mode and there is the fine mode. Now what I'm finding, if I have things that are rather intricate, like here's some of the flowers I've already cut. See, those are pretty intricate. These cut much cleaner if I cut them in fine mode. Okay, but if you're cutting simpler shapes, you can use normal mode. Now I did cut these little flowers like this. These are not as bad, and I cut these in fine mode, or excuse me, in normal mode, and they cut fine. Most of the time I leave this on fine. But today, just to speed up the process a little bit, I am going to use normal. And the 2 flowers we'll cut today are this one, which is the one that looked like this. Let me hold the die up. This plainer one. Okay. And then the other one that we're going to cut out is the one that we use the PES file, and it's quite plain. And they cut fine on normal. It also makes the machine cut a little faster because this takes a long time. And I'll show you that with one of the other ones in a minute. Okay. So we're going to leave that on normal right now. And then the other one I have to find is blade adjustment area. Let's see. Can't remember where that one is. Here it is. Blade adjustment area, rotary blade. And you need to include the material area turned on. So that's one of the other adjustments. And I believe that the machine comes with that turned on. So that is already turned on there. Okay. So that's one of the adjustments. So there's 3 adjustments. The blade adjustment area, the cut mode rotary blade can be normal or fine. And I'll change this and show you the difference in what it makes for how fast it cuts. And then we need to have let's see, where is it? Did I skip it? Oh, oops. I always forget this one. Must be down here. Here we go. Pattern interval needs to be set at 5. Okay, so those are the 3 things. And if you print off this little manual, it has it all written out in here what to do. Okay, so those are the things that we need to change in the settings for this to work properly. All right, now the rest of it, once we get that all done, the rest of it is super easy. We put the blade in, right? We got blade in there. Now we're ready to cut. We got all of our settings done, but I wanted to show you how it makes a difference, how fast things cut. So let's do that really quickly, and then we'll cut our first flower. These are so much fun to do. Okay, so let me retrieve my data. I'm going to go back to my stick and get my flowers that we just made. And we did number 4 down here, so we'll get that one. And I want to show you the difference in how fast they go. So I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to get rid of a couple of these just temporarily. Remember, we saved this, so if you hit delete, it's okay. They're still there. And let's get rid of this one for a minute. And I want to show you, this is that intricate one, that really intricate one that I did in this yellow right here. Okay. So I'm going to go to OK. I'm going to hit OK one more time. And I'm going to select cut. So right now it tells me that remember, I have it on normal. It says it's going to cut in 9 minutes. Now, I did cut this out on normal, and I found that it did not cut very well. They said you will have definitely have a difference in the way they cut between normal and fine. And this one cut, but I had to help it a little bit. I had to do some trimming. And again, I am using just plain like quarter felt from Walmart. I am not using expensive felt because I do so many, little samples. I didn't want to, bring in really good felt to do this. So this is just simple felt that I buy, like at Joann's or Walmart or someplace like that. Okay. So this is acrylic felt. But if I go in here to this setting button and I go down to where that setting was that says cut mode rotary blade, and I tell it instead of normal, I tell it to go to fine and then click OK. Let's see how long it takes now to cut this out. Now it takes 28 minutes just to cut out one flower. All right. I find that it cuts out, and that's what I cut this out on. Okay. It does cut much better on fine if you're doing detailed items like this is. Okay. But it does take a while to do. So we're going to go back and change it back to normal. For the 2 little pieces we're doing, they're not that detailed. So you might have to change this depending on the project you're cutting out. So I am going to use normal on this one, okay? Because we're going to cut out these 2 less detailed little flowers. So this little flower here that we made with the PES file, and the little flower that looks more like a rose. These were fine, and they will cut out fine on normal. Okay, so I have it on normal right now. These 2 I set on fine because they had a lot more detail, and I couldn't get them to cut well without setting them on fine. Okay, all right. So let's talk about the mat here. So this is my this is my felt mat. Felt is kind of messy especially if you're using an inexpensive, acrylic felt. So I personally have a mat that's not overly sticky, and this is my old crunchy old mat that I've had. So see the polka dot right here? This mat came out just shortly after the original DX models came out because they had a little problem with the mats, and this was the replacement mats that they sent me. And so I've had this mat for probably like 5 years, and I've been using it and resticking it. Okay, so this mat is kind of crunchy and gross looking, but I only use it for felt now because the felt's kind of messy. You don't want it to be overly sticky. This is a standard mat. I do not use the fabric mat for my felt because I cannot get the felt off. I don't use very expensive felts most of the time, so I found that a moderately sticky standard mat works really well. But I have one that I just marked felt down here, and it's just kind of my old mat that if it gets dirty, I can just scrub it really good and get it clean again, because I have to scrub these quite often with the felt. Okay, so we're going to use that mat. Like I said, I don't like to throw my mats away. I've got old mats, so all right. And it is kind of ugly looking, but it works. Okay, so let's cut out let's cut out the little rows that we made with the PES folder first. Okay, with the PES file, I should say. All right, so we'll put that, and I'm going to retrieve my data, go back to my stick. That's where it's at. And I'm going to go get that little file. Let's see, it was in the B pocket. And it's one of these PHC files. That's what the machine produces. And then when I get to this screen, I'm not going to use the PES file. I'm going to use the applique file in here. So I'm going to grab that. And there's my file right there. So hit OK. I think those, and this is a fairly small file, but I wanted to leave it the size that it was on my little pillow. So here it is on the little pillow. So I left it the same size. I didn't change the size at all. All right, so I'm going to hit set, and I'm going to hit OK. Now we have all of our, oops, you know what? I'm going to go back one screen. We put some fabric on here. What color do we want to make our flower? Let's have a blue rose. I've got kind of a turquoisey color felt here. So I've got some felt cut. And I'm just going to put my felt piece down on the mat here. Doesn't matter where. And then I have my little brayer, and I'm just going to go over it to make sure that it sticks down to my mat, like that. All right, so there's my felt, and it's stuck well. I'm going to go ahead and hit the scan button up here, and we're going to scan it so we know where the fabric is. So we'll do a blue flower. Then I'm going to show you how to put these together. They're really fun to do. Has anybody got any questions? Everybody understanding what we're doing? The rotary blade is really cool. So there's really not much to it. Once you get the settings done, then there's really not much to it. You just put it in and cut. So it works really well. All right. So here's my little design over here. I'm going to grab it and pull it down onto my fabric. Okay. And then I'm going to click OK. Now this is going to take a few minutes to cut out. So remember, we went back to normal, and I'm going to click please select, and we want to cut. And it's going to tell me that it's going to take about 4 minutes to cut. And that's what I knew it was going to. So, and I've got it on auto pressure and the speed of 3. We could speed it up a little, but I think the fabric or the felt and the rotary blade, it doesn't work real well fast. So I find that it does better slowed down. So I usually have my machine set speed 3. And I think the new default is 5. It's kind of fast. Let's see what if it made any difference with this little. No, it's still the same. So I usually cut mine at 3. That's where I cut mine. So we'll leave it the speed at 3. Okay. Then we're going to hit start. So this is going to take a few minutes to cut out. And I'm going to explain how I'm going to put these together while this is going. I'll show you another sample so you can see. Now, it does do some weird things. I'll just warn you, the first time you use this blade, you may find it very odd because all of a sudden, it'll just be going away like this, and it'll just start shooting the mat in and out. So if it does that, don't be afraid. It does do that. So it's just very odd the way it cuts. So here's another little sample of flowers that I did. I did this on Sew Along with Jan. I'll also link this video. And these 3 flowers are available for you for free on my Sew Along with Jan the Dropbox. So I will link all of these for you so you can have 3 flowers to cut out. Okay. So this one is a cool little flower. And I explain in the video, there's a video and the Dropbox, how to do this whole project. So I did part of it with paper and part of it with the felt. Right? And we used the Rotary Auto Blade for that. And then we did this with this little pillow was one of the bench buddies. And so I did all of these last year. It was a year ago. We finished them about a year ago. And so we did these in the, I have all videos on these too. So I can show you how we did all the bench buddies. If you've ever done these are Kimberbell. These were way fun to do. So that's a couple of my little samples. And then this is the flower we're cutting out right now. So this is what it looks like when it's all rolled up. And I'll roll them all up for you too. But this is what it looks like when it's all rolled up. And these were so much fun. I was so excited to get these to be bigger. I love these little dies. And when you roll these, this size up. They're so tiny, but they're beautiful. But oh my gosh, isn't that a nice size? So now you can have a little flower on things like this. Now is about the size of these. So see, these are all about the same size now. These are a little smaller maybe. And then this one also has more little ridges on it. Okay. So those are nice. And then this one is a little bit more like a rose. And I really like this one too. That's a really pretty flower. I like that one. I saw Kimberbell doing a lot of flower stuff in one of their quilts. Was it the spring quilt maybe that they did a bunch of flower things? And I've really enjoyed making flowers. See how it's running in and out right now? It'll do this. All of a sudden it'll start doing this little in and out thing. It's really weird. And the first time it did it, it was like running all the way down my mat and in and out. And I was like, wow. Okay. But it has to adjust the blade angle. That's why it's doing all that gyrating. But it's pretty cool to watch it. And it does take a while to do. Okay, so we're done. That was about 4 minutes. And then I'm going to pull this up just carefully. Okay. And see it cut nicely. Now this was cut on normal because I know this one's not very detailed. So it was fine on normal. And then I'm going to carefully pull this up. And there's our little blank to make our little flower. Okay, so let's cut the other one. And then we'll do all of the rolling to get at the same time. So there's the little flower that we're ready to roll up. And this is the one that's on the little bench buddy pillow. Okay, so now let's see. And you can see it left kind of a mess on my mat. That's why I leave this, grungy old mat as my felt mat. Okay, so let's try doing another one. So we're going to cut out this one that looks more like a rose. Okay, and let's see. This one I need a bigger piece of felt. So let's try, I say I've got a pink and a red. How about a purple one? Let's do purple. I like purple. Or maybe, I like red too. Let's do another red one. All right, so I'll get my red. This one's like 5 by 5. And we're going to do the, going to go ahead and put this down a little further. And then I'm going to press this down with my brayer. Okay, second here. Got something on there. There we go. All right, so we got our fabric on there, our felt. And again, like I said, if you use more expensive felt, you'll have less mess also on your mat. So like wool felts, wool blend felts work great. I just don't have a lot of that at home, so I just use the felt that I have. And I think they turn out fine. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select my other pattern. I want to cut out the rose one because I know that one will cut fairly quickly. So I'm going to go back to my stick and I'm going to get the design that we did. And all 3 of them are on there, but we can get rid of the 2 we don't want to cut right now. I want to cut this one up here. That's the one that is less detailed. So we'll get rid of the 2 detailed ones. So I'm going to hit edit and then delete. We'll get rid of those. And I've got those cut out here. So we'll put those together too so you can see them. And cut those out. There we go. So we just got the one that we want. Now we need to hit OK. And we're going to scan again so we know where the fabric is. So see, once you get everything set up with the rotary blade, there's not a lot to it. You just cut. But it does depend on if you have it on normal or fine, how fast things cut. And now normal for this flower is going to be a couple of minutes. And if I put it on fine, it would take about, I think it took 11 minutes. So we'll check. So here's my little design. I'm going to pull it down on my fabric like that. I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to please select and cut. Okay. So now it says it's going to take 2 minutes. If I go back into the settings, and you can change this as you're cutting. So let's go down to cut mode rotary blade. Let's put it on fine and see how long it says it's going to be. It says 12 minutes now. So you can see that it does go more slowly, and it does a really good job of cutting on normal mode if it's not very detailed. Like this was not very detailed. So I am going to go back to normal to cut this one out so we can get it done in 2 minutes instead of 12. Yesterday I cut all 3 of these out on the mat, and it took 37 minutes to cut out all 3. So for this one, the purple one, and the one that I'm cutting today, it took me 37 minutes, I think, to cut it out, all 3 of them. So we'll go back to normal. Okay. And then I'm going to, we know we got it in the right spot, it says 2 minutes, and we're going to hit start. So we're going to cut out another red flower, and then I'll show you how to put them together. They're fun to put together. You always have to finish your project, you know. Yeah, I love the little pillow. Isn't it cute? And then these little flowers I cut out with the Scan and Cut too, but they're like a long strip with the little bumps on it. And then you got to take a little needle and gather them up. They're kind of tedious, so that's why I didn't cut those out. These are a little easier to do. I like the rolled flowers better. And this little fuzzy flower that looks sort of like a gardenia, is that what I was saying? That gardenia, or like those puffy flowers. This one is very easy to put together. It looks hard, but it's really easy. So I'll link all those things together so you can find the freebies for those 3 flowers, because these 3 flowers I gave everybody, so you can cut them out on your Scan and Cut. All right, so it's cutting. It said it was going to take 2 minutes, but this one wasn't really detailed either. This one was pretty flat also. And it does that little back and forth thing. So it's cutting that. Okay, so it's all done. All right, I'll pull this back so you can see, and we're going to pull this one off and just carefully pull it off. Looks like it cut it pretty well. And every now and then you'll have just a little spot that, like, here's a little spot here that didn't cut. And again, this is not very good felt. This is quarter felt from like Joann's or Walmart. So don't expect it to be perfect, but it does cut pretty well. And sometimes I need to just I grab my scissors, and I can use my scissors to just help me out a little bit. All right, so here's this one. So I'm going to pull it off, and you can see kind of made a mess on my mat. So I'll take these home and clean them with my baby wipes and have them all ready to go again. So let's pull this up. All right. Okay. All right. So here's that one. So this is the one that's going to look like this. Okay. All right. So let's put these together. So I'm going to unload my mat. You can see my mat's pretty messy. So I just have a mat that I cut felt on. I just decided this old mat's going to hang on for felt. Okay. All right. So let's make some flowers. This is my favorite part. All right. So let's see if I can get this camera. I'm going to move it over just a little bit more so I can bring it down a little bit. And we're going to make some flowers. These are so much fun to do. All right, so let's bring these down. And okay, so there's a couple ways you can do this. I often use this fast grab tacky glue from Aleene's to put my flowers together, or you can use a glue gun. And I just have my glue gun today. Just be careful with your glue gun, that you don't burn yourself, because, it's kind of hot. So I just have to be careful. And when you do these, so you can see, this is what we cut out. And remember the little black piece, how little it was? Let me grab those, how little they were, and now how much bigger they are, and they're going to make beautiful flowers. So like here's this one that we cut out and that we scanned in. See how tiny it is? I'm just so excited to have these bigger flowers now, and I just thought these were so cute. Okay, so when you roll flowers, what I do is I like to use a pair of tweezers. And these are those reverse tweezers, like when you squeeze them, they open instead of when you pinch them, they close. So these are called reverse tweezers, and I like these straight ones because I'm used to doing this kind of stuff like with a quilling tool, and with flowers, with the felt, you can't get the felt into the quilling tool. It's too thick. So I use these little tweezers. So what I do is I squeeze my tweezers and I get it in the center of my flower. This is the end, the bigger end here. This is the center. And I'm going to take a couple of turns with my tweezers until I won't get any glue on my tweezer. Then I'm going to take my glue gun, second maybe, and I'm just going to put a dot of glue there just to kind of give me a little bit to hang on to. And I'm going to roll a little bit. And I'm just rolling it. And as a kid, I did quilling. So this is sort of like quilling. Okay, so I rolled a few times, and then I'm just going to take another little dab of glue here. Okay. And then we're going to roll again. With the flowers, I usually like to put a little bit of glue in the rolling area where I'm rolling because they do like to come apart a little bit. So I usually just put a little glue in as I'm going. Okay, we're going to roll like when I'm doing paper, I don't, but with the felt I do because it doesn't stay together as well. And I can't roll it as tight. Don't pull it. Don't pull it really tight. Do it kind of loosely. So I'm just rolling it around. Keep going until you get to the end. You got to do a couple more rounds here. Got a little excited with the glue in that one spot, but it's okay. I try not to put too much. All right. So then I need to squeeze my tweezers so that they release and pull out a little bit. And then see, I've got this nice flat spot on the back. And I'm going to take my glue then, like that. And I'm going to lay that little flipper on the top. And if you got a little bit of glue, you can do, whoop, there it goes. You can pull your little glue, you know how you get glue strings. There we go. And then kind of squeeze it out a little bit, squeeze the center in a little bit, and there's the flower. So there's that one. So we got 3 of those. I got 2 red ones and a pink one, like that. So that one's cool. So that was what this one looked like when it was little. That's what this one is. Okay. So I got those, and then let's do some of these other ones. So here's the one that we did with our PES file, the little flat one. Isn't that cute? So we're going to do this the same way. I'm just going to take my reverse tweezers, and I'm going to grab the center. This is the center, and then this is the end of it, the round thing at the end. So I'm going to put my tweezers in here, and then I'm going to take a couple of turns like that, and then I'm going to put just a little glue. And if you kind of stay down towards the bottom, it's best. And then I'm going to just start turning. Take a few turns. And remember, this was a sewing file. And guess what? We got to cut it, didn't we? Isn't that cool that you can make cutting files right off of your PES files? And then I'm going to put a little more in here. You can also be doing this with this glue. But I kind of just use a glue gun. I don't know. I get along pretty well with my glue gun now, so I usually use that when I'm doing this. I have a hard time. This is very thick and it grabs better, but I have a hard time squeezing the bottle. So that's why I like to use my glue gun, because it's a little easier to get the glue to come out. Okay, roll it around. Just keep going. Okay, and I'm not pulling. I'm being very gentle. Don't pull. Don't pull hard on your felt because it's going to stretch. All right, so let's get around here, and I'm going to put a little glue right here because this last little turn is just kind of weird. So, all right, and then I'm going to let go. I'm going to squeeze my tweezers and pull out, and then there's my little flat spot on the back. Okay, and then I'm going to take my glue and I'm going to put glue along the bottom, like that, and I'm going to glue it down. Push it down on my, and I'm not quite happy with this one yet. May have to see if we can pull this over a little bit. Sometimes this one's a little tricky I have a little trouble getting that last little turn again the way I want it. There we go. That's better. I turned it a little bit. There we go. So there's the one we made out of our PES file. So I have a pink one like that. And then this is the little red ones that I put on my little 4th of July pillow. Those cute? So that was made out of the PES file. All right, so let's do the other ones. Now these are those two intricate ones, the ones with all the little bumps on it. And let's see, let's do this one first. This one's purple. So I cut this one out in advance because it took about 20 minutes or so for this one to cut out. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Okay, I'm going to turn this in a couple of times so that I'm not going to get any glue on my tweezers, and just put a little glue here. Just watch your fingers. And then I'm just going to keep turning. Turn a few times, and then I'm going to put another little bit of glue in. Yeah, these are fun to do. But I was so excited to be able to make the designs with my scan and cut, because then I can have any size flowers I want. I'm going to try, there's some that are a little bit more intricate yet, and I'm going to try doing those too. I haven't done any more. I just did these 3 for the class, but all right. So I'm just going to do this. Keep going. Keep the little bumps up. This was a long one. This one's going to take a little bit to roll up. Just put a little more glue in there. Go across. Okay, I'm trying to keep it nice and flat as I'm going. Okay, like this. And then this is going to look cute. I like this one. I really need to try some of the nicer felts because I just don't have any. And when I was with my father, you know, I basically had Walmart to get anything. So I was in a small town. So I have a lot of just felt because I was doing a lot of felt items. Okay, so I've got this one all the way up, and then I'm going to squeeze my tweezers again, pull this out. Okay, so I got this nice flat spot on the back. Then I'm going to put and if you put glue kind of all over it, it kind of adheres the whole thing together so it won't unroll on you. And then I'm just going to lay that little flipper on the bottom. Then I'm going to push this down like that. And there's my little flower. That's the medium one. So that's the one that looked like this when it started. Teeny. See how teeny that is? Okay. And then I have a yellow one like that. Nope, this was I'm sorry, this is the blue one. So I had a pink, I have a purple one and a blue one of that one. And then we have one more to do. So we'll do this one and then we'll be done. So this is that real intricate one. Now I did have to do a little bit of, teeny bit of trimming on this one because it left a few of those little danglers. So but it really looks fine. I'm going to take a few turns. Oops, I got some thread in there. Okay. We'll do this. Okay, keep turning. Turn a few more times, put a little more glue. So like I said, when I do these in paper, because you could also do these in paper roses and paper flowers, they're so cute. So I don't, with the paper, I normally do not glue with paper when I'm doing these. I'll just roll them because I can roll them a little tighter and they stay fine. But with the felt, I found that I have to put a little glue as I'm going to hold everything together. It's just thicker and a little, you know, it stretches a little bit and stuff. All right. Just about done. All right, one more little dab here. Oops, I got a little carried away on that one. All right, so there's the top of that one. And then I'm going to pinch my tweezers and pull it out. And then let's just put a little dab of glue right here. And then this one, the little bottom piece wasn't as big. So I'm just going to go ahead and put part because I want to make sure it kind of holds it together, and then put the little flapper over it. There we go. Push down in the center. And there is my little flower. Aren't those cute? So, and this is how big it was when it started. Isn't that cool that we can make all those different sizes? So I was so excited to do these. Okay, so now we've got our little flowers. All right, I'm gonna change the camera up here. What'd you think of the flowers? Did you like that? And the rotary auto blade? I really like the auto blade. I don't use it for every single thing I cut because it does take a while to cut. So I really use the regular blade like I showed you.
When I'm doing most of my cutting. So that's why I wanted to show you this separately. And I use it for my felts, for maybe knit fabrics, something like that. But I usually mostly for felt. And it does a wonderful job. So thank you so much. Okay, so next week is our week off. We will have a week off next week for Shields Live. There will be no Shields Live next Thursday because we're having a retreat in the store. There are still a few openings if you would like to come to the retreat here in Iowa City. The Davenport store is full, but there is a few options or a few spaces open here in Iowa City for next Thursday and Friday. I think, what is it, the 27th and 28th? Does that sound right, Lynn? I think you're here. I always forget the dates, so I think it's the 27th and 28th. And if I can find it, hopefully I can find it here. My calendar is being quirky. Oh yeah, 27th and 28th. Okay. So that is next week. So we will not have Shields Live next week. And I haven't decided on the theme for August yet. So the next class will be August, the first Thursday in August, whatever that is. So we'll look at our calendar again. That would be the 3rd of August. So I haven't made a theme yet. So if anybody has any theme ideas for the month, let me know. I have a couple in mind, so I'll be letting you know pretty soon, but we will not have class next week. And I'll see you on August 3rd for Shields Live. So thanks, everybody. Have a great day, and I hope you enjoyed the Rotary Auto Blade.